It's time for another edition of the Mailbag. I also want to give a personal life update, a follow-up to last month's personal update. A month ago, I told you that my wife and I are expecting our second child. We didn't know what we were having aside from the child, of course, being human. And I just learned that I will be buying skirts and pink things for a while, so we'll be having a girl. So thanks to everyone who offered prayers and support. It is appreciated. Now, on to the mail. I received a lot, and I do mean a lot of books this month. First up is this compendium of the preconciliar catechisms of the Church. It has the Baltimore Catechism, which I learned recently was itself full of what was considered innovations at the time of its publication, but compared to what we see today is orthodox, and I don't know the details of that beyond what I just said, but it comes from sources that I actually trust, which that's not to denigrate the Baltimore Catechism at all. I'm sure that it's completely fine, honestly. It's just, it probably, tested the waters in ways that our forebears would have raised an eyebrow at. However, the book that's on your screen, has the Catechism of the Council of Trent, numerous faithful commentaries on these texts, as well as some commentaries on St. Thomas Aquinas. This is a solid book, and one that I recommend for anyone looking for one-stop referencing of the great catechisms of the Church. You can find it online easily for sale at the various book-selling places. So thank you to the listener who sent this to me. And it really is comprehensive in its presentation, ranging from pretty much the entire preconciliar major catechisms of the Church, all in one place. It is the size of a phone book, so do be advised on that. Next up are these books on St. Joseph and Our Lady's various apparitions in Portugal. Now, I'll be digging into Marian apparitions in Portugal, likely after I finally get around to my long-promised but as yet undelivered video on Our Lady of Revelation. I also want to really dive into what a dedication to St. Joseph really looks like, what a devotion to St. Joseph would entail, not just a review of this book or that book on consecration to St. Joseph, but really what it is about. I have Father Donald Calloway's book on St. Joseph, thanks to a listener sending me a copy a few months ago. And that book, along with these, should provide invaluable support to that project. If you know of any older books on the subject of devotion to St. Joseph or good online resources that are not modernist friendly, let me know in an email if you can. It'll help with that, because I think we need to start promoting devotion to St. Joseph, authentic devotion to St. Joseph. Now that brings me to this book, Behold Thy Mother, which is a Servite manual on devotion to Our Lady of Sorrows. I've done videos on Our Lady of Sorrows before. Now, my consecration to Our Lady is renewed every September on the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. And I'm going to give you a bit of a personal story. Most of you know that I'm from Portland, Oregon originally, although now I reside in central Oklahoma. And for a time when I lived in Portland, I received spiritual direction from an older Servite priest in Portland. And if you don't know, Portland is kind of a big deal for the Servites, as they operate the Grotto, which is a national shrine to Our Lady of Sorrows. And it has been there in Portland since the early 20th century. I highly, highly recommend that you visit the Grotto if you can. Granted, that requires driving into Portland, which these days is a bit of a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome affair, but still, if you can, the Grotto is beautiful, especially in the spring. It features prayer gardens of all kinds, including a walking rosary path, and in the spring is quite the hotbed of Catholic tourism. And at Christmas, they have a live nativity scene and all kinds of live seasonally appropriate music. So check it out if you can. The Grotto is run by the Servite monks and nuns, and they could use your prayers, especially for vocations. Now, I'm going to move on, though. A professor sent me these. They are written philosophical rebuttals of the common atheist arguments made against the faith, as well as what looks like defenses of philosophy in general. I plan to dig into these as well, for in our time the adversaries of the faith engage in philosophical arguments, though I doubt anyone would call Dawkins and Hitchens philosophers. But still, it's something we should all be at least familiar with, given that Aquinas' proofs for the existence of God are done on philosophical grounds, and have yet to be answered appropriately. So I'll go over these in the future. And by the way, I just thought I'd recount this little story as well. The only book I've ever read that I really wanted to just hurl across the room was Dawkins' book, famous book on his personal antipathy towards religion in general. That book is the only book I've ever wanted to throw across the room, and I picked it up to read it in the first place because I heard stories that there were plenty of diocesan seminarians who were reading it and were leaving the seminary after reading it and walking away from the faith. That book is not very well written, which really, that was one of those things that was kind of an eye-opening event for me when I read that years ago, because that really showed us the state of things. Now, let's move on, though. I was sent this. This is an interesting thing. This is a packet of wall decals by a Catholic startup called devoutdecals.com. They're not a sponsor. Now, they sent me these decals, and they are of various saints and the like. Now, these are applied directly on your wall in your house, which is great as long as your wall is smooth. Now, mine aren't, but that's okay. We'll definitely find a use for them. The Sacred Heart of Jesus and Immaculate Heart of Mary are very well done and a good way to put our Lord and Lady in the bedrooms of your little ones if need be. Plus, there are numerous saints here, ranging from St. Francis of Assisi to St. Therese, St. Joseph, St. Michael the Archangel, among others. And they have normal sticker sizes as well, for all your sticker needs. So yeah, these are pretty cool little items, and my son is going to be that age soon, when he can handle stickers the way all little kids do, and I look forward to giving them to him, and I plan to share these with some good Catholics I know here in my area. Finally, I want to thank the priests who have emailed or written me. Don't worry, I won't be naming any names or anything. And to the priest in Louisiana, and there are more than a few dioceses in Louisiana, so I'm not narrowing it down much, but to the priest in Louisiana, I want to thank you for your prayers and support. And that also goes to all the priests who have written me in the past few weeks. I had one priest ask me about where to learn the traditional liturgy, and I managed to provide some vague leads after consulting with some of the men who I talked to who are very deeply tied in the traditional movement in the United States. And I hope those leads prove to be fruitful. All of the support of this channel enables me to spend a lot of time networking with others and providing content so I can do things like that, which I hope to do more of in the future. So if you are a priest watching my channel and you see this, I always am discreet with the correspondence I receive from anyone, but especially with the clergy. We all know how hard it can be for the traditionally minded clergy who just want to teach the Catholic faith and to say the Mass in a way that our ancestors would have recognized. So if you want to reach out to me, feel free to write or send an email. Again, I'm always discreet, especially with the clergy. Finally, I've been told by a few listeners that they or someone close to them are experiencing some pretty bad, shall we say, physical things right now, and some have been informed by the professionals that their time among us is drawing to a close. I'm not going to disclose identities here, but I know of at least two immediately, so please say a rosary for them. Keep them in your prayers, because if I can't get a few of you to pray for each other and for the church, then I am wasting my time completely. So please, pray for them, for me, and for them as well. And also, pray that my pulled back and tender back muscles get back to normal soon. I had a deadlifting mishap at the gym a couple of weeks ago, and things are improving. It wasn't bad, and it's definitely just a pulled muscle. I deadlifted an amount of weight that I had been doing consistently recently. In fact, it's nowhere near my personal record of a deadlift. And I just, things happen. It is what it is, I guess. Oh, one last thing, though. If you do send me things, whatever it is, include an email address and neatly print it. I received something from somebody that I couldn't read the email address on. So please, include an email address that is neatly printed. If you have to do it in block letters, that's fine. Just include that with things, please. It is appreciated. Now that's all I have for this week. I'll see you all tomorrow with the news, and until then, pray for the Church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.